that second here. I think I've got to do one more stop on that video, or I'm going to have sound in the background. Welcome to Marketing Monday. I don't know whether that works or not. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm talking to Michael Moye. Is that right, Michael?
Yeah.
And John with Welcome Home. And we are going to be talking about the 4 top questions they get from sales leaders. And the questions are just absolutely terrific. But before we do that, we are going to start with this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. So that almost seems kind of tame after the roller coaster. Did you feel dizzy at all?
A little bit, but now I want to be a cartoon.
I was going to say, can we put John Lariccia's face on that TV?
That'd be fantastic. You turn it on, and there I am, and doing a little dance.
Yeah, we can do that. You know, we have somebody who does those things for us that's really, really good. So we're really excited on it. And I know we're working. I don't know whether it has you in it or not, but I know that we are working on an intro for Marketing Monday. Although I still kind of think we should call it Move In Monday.
I agree.
So before we get into these questions, let's talk a little bit about, a lot of people are going to know who Welcome Home is and who you guys are, but let's do a real quick introduction as to who you are. Let's start with you, John, and then we'll go to you, Michael.
Yeah, that sounds great. So my name is John Lariccia. I'm the founder and CEO of Welcome Home. Started the company 5 years ago and launched the CRM almost 3 years ago to the day with our very first pilot community. We built the CRM because we thought that there needed to be a tool that affirmatively helped sales directors and their leadership team get to move-ins in an efficient and effective way. And, it's been an amazing ride. We've seen almost 100 different operators adopt us over the past 3 years, and looking to continue to serve as many as we can, because we love the space and think that there's a lot of opportunity to have technology married with great teams in order to drive better sales performance. So that's me.
Right. And I brag on you guys all the time, because one of the things that I, as I've told you before, if you'd come to me in advance and say, hey, we're going to build a CRM for senior living, I would have told you were nuts, because it's already too crowded. And yet what you did, and this is so admirable, is what you did is you came in and looked at the existing space, figured out all the things that weren't happening the way they should, how to make it easier, better for everybody. And so that's terrific. So Michael?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on. And so I'm Michael. I'm an account executive here at Welcome Home. And a previous life, I was actually a sales and marketing director. And so John actually likes to remind me that I pushed him off the first time that he ever reached out to me when he was first launching the product. But one of the reasons why I felt like it just was an absolute no-brainer to kind of come join the Welcome Home team. First and foremost, it's a tool that actually helps senior living sales and marketing directors, right? And so I think throughout this conversation, we're going to be able to share some of those key tips, but we're not even really going to even approach the real crux of everything that a sales and marketing director does, which is so funny that you have to be the jack of all trades. And so thankful to work for a platform and a company like Welcome Home to hopefully make the lives of what I was formerly doing just much more simple and easy.
Well, cool. Well, John, Michael, welcome. Let's take a look at the first question that you get asked. How can I get a move in?
$1 million question.
It is the question, right? If we answer this, we almost don't have to do anything else. We've got 3 others though, right? Yeah. Oh, look at that, John.
I heard getting a cartoon. And then I never have to diet. I can always be thin. I can always be in great shape in the cartoon form. And Michael, you want to start as when we get those questions?
Yeah. And I love this question because it's such a broad question. So I can go any different direction, and hopefully it's really hard to get this wrong. But from a sales standpoint, how can I get a move in? I mean, that's the question that gets asked sales directors all the time, because that's your job, right? You're responsible. You are that revenue generator of your community. And so I think, one of the things that we do really well as an industry is seeing it from the art side. So I think there's two different elements of how can I get a move in. There's an art side and there's a science side to how can we generate these move-ins. And the art side, so I've started kind of my own little podcast, and so I've been able to talk with a number of different operators and being in this seat. You have to be a trained, I'm going to steal the quote from Christy Vander Westhuizen, is that you have to be a trained curiosity professional. You have to be almost just like an investigator to understanding, not I hate using word pain points, but you genuinely have to know why somebody is looking for either themselves or for a loved one. And, I've talked to a number of different people. I mean, you can look at it from many different ways, but you can actually work with two families, right, that have the same type of kind of initial issue going on. So just as an example, they could be looking for their mom. They could be looking for their loved one who has some form of Alzheimer's, and they're just exhausted, right? They're just, the past year, they've been taking care of mom. It's just been such a strain. But from the outset, you can almost think that that's just two same people, right? But there's deeply rooted underlying whys that we as sales directors, we as professionals need to do a really good job at understanding the why behind it. So one person could be looking for it because they're working a 9-to-5 job, right? And they're having a hard time balancing the two of taking care of mom and also having that focus in their current job. And then one person could be saying, I honestly had a hard time being present with my current family. And so there's a number of different ways that we can go about it, but just being very curious on why somebody is looking for assisted living or memory care. And it's just important for us as sales directors to be just genuinely curious. And then, from the science side of it, we work with WelcomeHome, so I got to give a plug to our platform here. But it's super important for us to actually know our numbers. So if we are tasked with trying to get, say 8 move-ins for the month, well, let's make it a repeatable and actionable process. How many typical times does it take, for you to make a call in order to connect to a prospect? How many times does it take from a calling, texting, emailing, does it take to generate that move-in? And I think we can systemize it as a sales processy to be able to say, I need to systematize it and actually know my numbers to get that budget occupancy.
So I want to dig just a little bit more depth on this question. So one of the things that I hear occasionally is that I don't have enough qualified leads. Not that I don't have enough leads, but I don't have enough qualified leads. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I think the very fact that someone has gone through the effort to reach out to a senior living community, which, there's a big hill to climb, right? It's not easy to click a link, to pick up the phone, certainly to walk in. The very fact that someone has made an affirmative step forward already creates a presumption of qualification, right? And so I would push into that. I would lean in. I would always round up and say, this is a person that has an opportunity to move in. This is a person that I could be helpful to. And even if I'm not able to be the right solution for them immediately, they don't have the budget yet, they don't have the family that's completely aligned, They think that they can continue to stay at home. Oh, that's fine. I can be a resource. And they're not qualified now, but they're qualified for another time.
Yeah,
the other
I think
thing
this
that
is
I think that's worth noting on the getting in a move in tomorrow as soon as possible is that even if you're not seeing great lead volume in the current period of time, odds are you have it in your database. We saw almost a doubling of lead banks over the pandemic, right? As you could think about, and it's funny that you started the segment with the roller coaster. We've been on a roller coaster, right? Seniors have been on a roller coaster. The families have been on a roller coaster. And at any point in time, whether it was in the early part of 2020 or in the latter part when you thought that the wave was done, then Omicron hit, then you inquired again. Folks were reaching out and then getting cold, and then reaching out and then getting cold. And you will find that there are lead banks of folks that have inquired, may have toured, and it's been 90 days since anyone has contacted them. And that's where we really encourage folks in terms of if you're looking for a move in tomorrow, look for folks that you already know, right? That for whatever reason went dormant. Don't assume that they disqualified themselves or that there was an affirmative choice as to why they've gone silent. Many folks have just been battered by the realities of, is it safe? Is now the time? And it's just fallen off kind of their radar, and you need to put yourself back on it.
Yeah. So I really like that. You introduced us to Stephanie Harris at Arrow Senior Living, and they have this term they use of green bananas, and those are those leads that have been in the database. And through the pandemic, it really sustained their whole organization to go back and work on those. So we are going to run our clock out. I'm going to actually move us to number 2. That's okay. We don't have to stop right at 30 minutes, so we got a little flexibility here. But let's take a look at the next question. What do I do about these aggregator and digital leads? They're a source of frustration, let's say.
Well, yeah, and I think it depends on whether it's aggregator leads or digital leads. But I think the first thing that you have to come in with the mindset is they're still legitimate leads, right? Behind that is a human being that has put their hand up to say, I need to learn more. And so it's disrespectful to sit there and say, I'm going to get to those later, right? Or it's not that important. Without a doubt, they convert at a lower rate than one that's going to be a walk-in, one that's going to come from a non-paid referral source. But the conversions are getting better. And again, at the end of the day, they're human beings, and you need to figure out what the right motion is in order to respond very quickly. What we built within WelcomeHome allows it to be as seamless as possible, so it doesn't make as big a burden or as big of a lift for the sales director. But again, the very first thing is go in with the right mindset that, yes, this has an opportunity to be a move-in. I had a talk with a group of operators, and I asked the sales teams as to what did they all think about digital and leads, and all of them kind of universally on this little voting said that they're low quality. Then I asked the follow-up question, which was, okay, of your last major purchase, whether it's a car, a house, a boat, a vacation, how did you research it? How did you start down the journey to make the buy? And all of them did it online. It's like, well, were you not a legitimate purchaser of a car or a house? And I think that's true, especially again, over the past few years, folks couldn't just stop in and do a community tour, or they weren't hanging around their doctor's office chatting as to what might be next. And they fell back to digital shopping across every single purchase. So that's what I would start off to do, which is start with the right mindset, very quickly and efficiently reach out to those folks and figure out where are they in terms of their propensity to move forward.
I think this is so critical. I used to go out and tour buildings, don't do it so much, a lot. It's not exactly mystery shopping, but sort of. And I was always shocked at when it was clear I wasn't an immediate buyer, how dismissive they came to me. And so I wonder, John, I mean, I think you really hit the nail on the head, right? Maybe digital leads are only poor leads because we have a bad attitude about them. What if every salesperson believed that the digital leads were actually better leads than the walk-in leads? It might completely turn around.
Yeah, easily. Well, I think the thing about that is that you have to treat, I mean, what's happening right now is we see the evolution. I think that the pandemic has sped up the process of more digital leads. And I think as more providers are allocating more funds, I think what's happening is we as an industry are just getting better at the digital process. I think people are hearing we need more content on the websites. We need to optimize our SEO. We need to do all these things. And so with that, you're going to get more qualified leads, but they're not going to be, because we all like instant gratification. We like the people that need that immediate move in. That's where we're going to place the focus. But what's going to happen is that's going to be, you have to take those digital leads very seriously. And then it's your job from a sales director position to nurture them and to be able to properly guide them through the sales process. And I think it's harder. It's much harder to do that than it is just to be able to say one call close, right? The one tour close. I think more and more that's not going to happen because there's going to be more information out there that people are going to be able to be privy to. But also, just as a sidebar, we're seeing, 80% of these buyers that are coming into the community, I mean, they have all the information. They might have already made up their mind before. So if you can convert a digital lead coming into the community, I mean, they're already 80% of the way to decision. Now it's your job to convince them that next 20%.
I love that. I love that. So there's sort of a second part of this question that we haven't really touched on. And what about the aggregator leads?
Yeah, Michael, I think your perspective on aggregators leads is spot on. So why don't you lead off?
I get super passionate about it because I think that the national aggregators probably get too bad of a rap. And I'll tell you why, because they've mastered it. I mean, they're talking about the SEO and the digital and all that. Now, granted, if in my opinion, so take this for what it's worth, you either go to the bathroom or get off the pot, right? With these national aggregators, you either choose to partner with them and do the best dang job possible in actually being an ally and seeing them as an ally, or we're seeing operators that are moving away and saying, you know what, I don't need it. So don't choose to work with aggregators because the fear of missing out on leads. And I can touch a little bit more on that, but Steve, you got something?
Well, I just want to say, I think that this is such an important thing. I think that, I have only actually one big complaint with aggregators, and that's that consumers end up being a part of a contract that they don't really understand. Right. But there are, as you said, Michael, there are operators out there who have just decided they're going to do what they need to do in the marketplace, and they're not using them.
Yeah. And more power to you. Yeah. So more power to you. And I think with that shift, you need to probably up your external business development. You need to have probably 2 sales directors at each community, one dedicated for EBD, that external business development, and one to, I'm just going to be in the community and doing my follow-up. And so make that your choice and stick with it, because I think at the end of the day, when I was a sales director, we partnered with the caring.coms and A Place for Mom. And I think what I did was you set up regular scheduled calls with some of these placement advisors, and you can humanize it. So you take it from the national level and then you humanize it. I mean, I had people come into events. I had really good relationships with A Place for Mom. And honestly, this might not sound great, but they know who the closers are. They know who can actually get it done versus who's not. And there's so many conversations that happen behind closed doors that if you are on their good side and you are building a strong relationship and you know that you're taking care of those families, you'll see your inquiry, you'll see those ratios go up significantly.
Yeah, and I think that's the big point, which is let's just have intentionality. Right? They are a
Yeah.
significant portion of the volume, and either treat them like a partner and guide them and push them to behave like a partner, or turn them off.
Yeah.
So that might be actually an interesting, always dangerous to do that when we're on live TV, right? But that actually might be an interesting future Marketing Monday, is to talk about
Yeah.
how to
Structure
go
relationship.
100% aggregator free. So because there are people out there who are doing that. So okay, let's look at number.
Steve, I think
Go
that
ahead.
both would be interesting. The one would be going aggregator free, and I just moderated a wonderful panel at the Interface Southeast conference, and one of the operators there did. He went completely free. He's leaning in heavily on events, and would say that he hasn't missed a beat. Others, though, of course, are relying on it, and I think that I think the real discussion to have is, what would be the path forward, and what would you have to believe, and what would you have to do to be completely free? But conversely, how do you make the most of it? So if you do have a relationship with Caring or a Place for Mom, how should you approach it? How should you structure it? What should be the motions that the team does in order to ensure that they are part of your team as opposed to a necessary evil? Sorry,
Well, and I think that's
actually.
I think it's actually a great point, right? Because there are some operators out there that, as a strategy, depend fairly heavily on the aggregators, and they get a fair number. They pay a lot of money, but they get a pretty fair number of move-ins that way. So, great point. Okay, let's go to number 3. How do I prioritize my day? I could probably use that even here.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
Who's gonna start? John?
Yeah. So from
Michael.
a prioritization standpoint, I think it's super critical that we, instead of doing it prioritizing your day, because if anybody from a sales and marketing seat is listening to this, I think that there's probably a number of people that would roll their eyes, oh, prioritize, or like, I can't control what all goes on, because at the end of the day, it's inevitable that Mary is going to walk into your office. She's going to complain that, it's the 4th time that she has missed, your community has messed up her order. And so I think it's really important that we take a step back instead of being reactive and looking at it at a week in advance. And so I know something that I like to do personally here is, on that Friday, kind of have a week to look back, reflect on the things that I've been able to accomplish, what did I learn, and how do I need to proceed forward? Who are the people that I need to be having conversations? Where do I need to develop next steps? And so instead of looking at it from a day-to-day perspective, let's look at it out at a week in advance and start blocking out those times. I think it's critical to have blocked out times and then communicating early and often with your organization, with your community, to be able to say, hey, listen, on your stand-up, this is my time. I'm going to be blocking out on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm going to be in the community doing follow-up. I'm going to be doing, this is what that day looks like. And then on Tuesday, Thursday, I'm going to be outside of the community. So let's figure out that tour tree or the inquiry tree to be able to discern, where leads or where walk-ins coming in from. Steve?
Do you have a sense of how much time, if there's a single salesperson in a building, how much time they should spend out of the building? You have recommendations for that?
It's got to be 50-50. It has to be. If you are spending, because honestly, there's just not, unless you are getting an absorbent amount of walk-ins or drive-bys or leads that you can't manage, which I personally believe that if done right, blocking out 2 hours, maybe 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the day on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it should be plenty of time for you to make sure that you don't have any past dues, you're up to date with your schedule, all of this. And then on Tuesday, Thursdays, you should be wearing out tires, right? You should be talking to elder law attorneys, all of your sourcing partner, your referral partners, because at the end of the day, this is kind of on the heels of that aggregator conversation. If you want to really eclipse or not feel the need for having any type of national aggregator, you have to generate non-paid referrals. How else does that happen? You can't just develop relationships inside the community. So I personally think it has to be 50-50.
Yeah. And the
John?
challenge is all these sales directors are amazing human beings and great team members. And the more time that they spend in the community, the more time they're going to help out. And often, while that might be in the short term great to be working in the dining hall or helping with the activities, the sales director's there to generate sales. And so you need to get out because there's an infinite amount of distractions, again, that have good purpose, but are still distractions by just staying within the community.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if maybe we ought to put together and make available a list of top 10 outside referral sources that we can make available to our readers and our viewers as a download. I mean, it's on one hand, I'm sort of thinking and saying, well, maybe this is obvious to people and everybody already knows what that is. But I find that oftentimes that's not true, that, you know, there are things that just that we don't think of. We actually had on a webinar that you guys were a part of a few months ago, we had two different people completely didn't know each other, completely unrelated, who talked about how they're using realtors with huge success to generate move-ins. And I'm going to get them on a Marketing Monday, either with or without you guys, one of these days, to talk about that, because I know that it's always on the lists I see, but I've never really seen anybody say, oh yeah, that's a place that gets me a lot of move-ins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
I think that would be I think that would be a great and helpful handout, and then also being able to know, you know, what converts it at a higher pace as well. So.
Great. So we'll get that figured out and put together. We'll drop it. We'll make it available in more than one place. But, you know, if you want the handout, just drop a comment in wherever you're watching, and we'll go track all that down and make sure you know about it when we get that put together. Okay, let's take the last question. This is such a tough one. And I think maybe we all ask this just about life in general. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah. And we do hear this. And I think that a lot of it is these sales directors feel like they're on an island, right? There's only one of them typically in a building. And they find that occupancy isn't going up, or they're not getting the move-ins, and it immediately kind of, they turn the lens back on themselves and feel like they're failing. And the vast majority aren't, right? That they're doing the right things, and it's really just a matter of focusing and figuring out, all right, what are you doing particularly well, and where are there opportunities to improve? And so, you know, we try to get rid of the guilt, to get rid of the emotion, and have them just break it down as to, okay, are you doing an amazing job once they do a tour, connecting with them, getting them to move in, and there's an opportunity once they're before they've done tour, right? Are you a great closer, but you're not great at getting them to come into the tour? Or are you great at everything for inbound, but you just are getting a mix of leads that's not quite as good? You're one of those folks that's amazing inside the community, but you just don't have the muscle or haven't devoted the time to get out into non-paid referral sources and do the kind of development. And so all of us have something to work on, right? Regardless of whether it's being a father, being a husband, being a business executive. And it's just chipping away as, okay, what can I get incrementally better at tomorrow that's going to move the needle? And so, I mean, we do hear it. We really do. We feel for whether it's heads of sales or sales directors, because it is a tough job. It's a lonely job at times, and it's easy to find kind of the places where you're failing as opposed to where you're succeeding.
Yeah, and
Michael,
and I guess to add on that, I think it's just important for sales directors to really take a step back and to not try to get to, because I think there's a blend of sales marketing and operations, but sometimes the problem can happen to where sales director can get too stuck on operations and start losing faith in their community. And so I think I'm reading through a book called Shoe Dog, and it's by Phil Knight, really how he started Nike, and it's an awesome book. But he was selling encyclopedias before he was selling shoes, but he sucked at selling encyclopedias. But then he was really great at selling shoes because he actually believed that this was such a helpful thing for those track athletes to have a great pair of shoes, and they started selling like hotcakes. And so belief is irresistible. So surround yourself with positivity, surround yourself with the people that believe in your product, and there's stories all around in senior living and in your community that are super positive. So just surround yourself with positivity.
Yeah, I think that that's such a critical part of this whole thing. I think that we sometimes miss the impact that we're actually having on real people's lives, on both the residents and their families, and that and Kit, you need Welcome Home as your CRM. There's no question about that. There's no question. It is. I think that we don't spend enough time collecting stories and telling stories about changed lives. Sometimes we're looking for stories that are too big, and so that's just such powerful stuff. So. And with that, I think we are about out of time. This has been such a great conversation. I love that. We'll figure out how to put together this list of external sources for you to go after. And we've got topics. And so this is like a perfect discussion. So Michael and John, I'm going to ask you to stay on after we're done. And we are going to close out with this.